everyone, Melissa here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you are spending some time with me today. I am here today with a book tag, and this one is the presidential book tag created by Steve Donoghue. So I'm also, as you may have noticed, filming this from a little bit of a different location. Right now here in Pittsburgh, the weather is extremely super cold this evening, and my usual filming location of our basement is generally really cold anyway, and nights like this, it's like positively like subarctic down there. So yeah, better to film here in our room, and maybe the lights even better too, who knows. But anyway, and back to the business at hand. Here with the presidential book tag, like I said, it was created by Steve Donoghue a couple months ago, right around the time of the United States presidential election. And it doesn't look like too many people have done it, but I thought I would do it today for President's Day. By the time this probably airs, it might be Tuesday for Tag Tuesday. But, you know, no worries. Steve actually created it on a Monday, so I feel justified if this goes up today. As you see, I have my tea, and my tea mug actually fits the prompt in a way. We have several presidential mugs. If some of you may have noticed with the books that where I usually film are my husband's. And he is a presidential historian by background. He is, that's his academic background. That's what he studied in school. His master's is in the American presidency. So I usually film in front of his bookcase. And anyway, and I should also mention too that I have not read any of those books. In fact, in 30 years of us being together, my husband and I have never read the same book. So that's probably a topic for another video. I would love to have him join me for that. But anyway, so the American presidency is kind of a big deal in our house. My son is a political science major, and again, with my husband's background. So anyway, so this mug, let me try to zoom in on it a little bit closer. This is from the Dan Quayle era. It is the official vice presidential drinking mug and crown holder. Again, yeah, I know I say crown funny because that's me being from Philadelphia, or if you've been keeping up with the news this past weekend, Philadelphia. So yeah, so anyway, this was from the Dan Quayle days, back when we thought that was our only major problem, was a president who didn't quite know how to pronounce, you know, potato. So go figure, who knew what we were in for. Okay, so what we're in for today, again, presidential book tag created by Steve Donoghue, the one and only. And so let's get started. So first prompt, George Washington, what's the first book you remember reading all by yourself with no help from anybody? I covered this in my BookTube newbie tag video, and that would be the Carolyn Haywood series of books. I can't say what book particular it was that I remember reading myself. Is probably like B is for Betsy, or C is for Cupcake, or any one of the Betsy books that were around. So these were like, but I do have one, Eddie's Green Thumb. So as you can kind of tell, these were very like mid-century, mid-19th century, mid-20th century rather, I guess, books. They were published like, you know, in the early 60s or so, maybe even earlier than that, in the 30s. So they were just like really like prime, you know, simple reading books, simple pictures, very simple plots, nothing controversial or anything. So this is one that I happened to pick up from a book sale for like $1.50. So this is not exactly the book that I remember reading myself, but it is. It represents them. Prompt number 2, John Adams. What book comes to mind that's short, but disproportionately powerful. Okay, I am going to go, and Steve suggests that we pick a book that is less than 100 pages. So the one I chose is 150, so we'll go with that. And that is The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. I absolutely love this book. I think that this is just a masterpiece. I mean, I loved everything about this. It's been a few years since I've read it, so I have some notes because I did want to really talk about it. This won the Man Booker Prize in 2011, and I think that it's well deserved for that prize. Like I said, I loved everything about this. The characters are so well defined. The writing is gorgeous. I mean, this is one where I could quote from this all day. I'll read you a passage or two in a minute. I think Julian Barnes packed so much into these pages. And if there's really anything that I don't like, it's the publisher's description. So it says, this intense novel follows a middle-aged man as he contends with a past he has never much thought about, until his closest childhood friends return with a vengeance, one of them from the grave, another maddeningly present. Tony Webster thought he left all this behind as he built a life for himself, and by now his marriage and family and career have fallen into an amicable divorce and retirement. But then he's presented with a mysterious legacy that obliges him to reconsider a variety of things he thought he'd understood all along, and to revise his estimation of his own nature and place in the world. I don't like that I don't like that description about this book. I think it feels very sinister, like very dark, and that is not what this is at all. It's a gorgeous meditation about time, about memory, about friendship. Just right off the bat, we just get some gorgeous writing. Let me see if I can find. We live in time. It holds and molds us, but I've never felt that I understood it very well. And I'm not referring to theories about how it bends and doubles back, or may exist elsewhere in parallel versions. No, I mean ordinary, everyday time, which clocks and watches assure us passes regularly. Tick-tock, click-clock. Is there anything more plausible than a second hand? And yet it takes only the smallest pleasure or pain to teach us time's malleability. This quote talks about literature. This is all in the first 16 pages, by the way. This was another of our fears, that life, with a capital L, wouldn't turn out to be like literature. Look at our parents. Were they the stuff of literature? At best, they might aspire to the condition of onlookers and bystanders, part of a social backdrop against which real, true, important things could happen. Like what? The things literature was all about. Love, sex, morality, friendship, happiness, suffering, betrayal, adultery, good and evil, heroes and villains, guilt and innocence, ambition, power, justice, revolution, war, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, the individual against society, success and failure, murder, suicide, death, God, and barn owls. And again, the writing, gorgeous. I love it. Packs such a great punch for a small book. So if you have not read A Sense of an Ending, you should definitely do so. Okay, let's keep going. Number 3, Thomas Jefferson. Tell us about a book that you like that's written by a very bad person. So I went through my Goodreads books to see, and I haven't read. Of course, the first person that comes to mind was the Harry Potter series with J.K. Rowling, and all the problematic issues that she's been involved with of late. I have never read a single one of the Harry Potter books. I know that makes me kind of a little bit of an outcast in a way, I guess, in the bookish community. And I don't really care. I never really cared to read them. Don't really want to. Have no intentions to read them, especially now. So I had to kind of really start think about this one, and I decided to go with A Higher Loyalty by James Comey, which was published in 2018. And I want to really emphasize here that I do not think that James Comey is a bad person. In fact, this book really kind of lets you in to see a little bit more about him, and how he thinks and about his background. He has a really interesting background, and he also had like a really horrific home invasion incident in his past when he was a teenager that is really harrowing, and just it's a wonder he's alive. So I want to really emphasize this, that I do not think that he is a bad person. I think that he is a person who made a really bad decision. And of course, in that, I am talking about the fact that about the issue when he announced 11 days before the 2016 election that the FBI was reopening its investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. I still stand by the fact that I think that was wrong. I think that cost Hillary the election. I know that there's been countless things written about that, about the election, and about why Trump won, and all of that. And I've read a lot of it, but I still, to this day, believe that that was the wrong decision, to announce that. In fact, in the book, he writes that a lawyer on his team asked the question that was on everyone's mind: should you consider that what you are about to do may help elect Donald Trump as president? And I agree with that. So I don't think that I can ever really forgive him for that, but based on reading the book, I can understand this decision better. I have a lot more respect for the deliberations and the thought process that went into it, and I think that alone really makes the book worth reading. Or listening to it on audio, which is what I did because James Comey narrates it himself, and I think that is real. I think that's always great when someone narrates the book themselves. But like I said, it really gives you an insight into the guy. He comes across as really likable. I mean, somebody who, is a decent fellow, who, is devoted to his wife and his kids, and someone you'd like to have as a neighbor. He has a great sense of humor. That definitely comes through in the book. He talks about working for Rudy Giuliani, which is certainly interesting in in the context of his antics. So anyway, it doesn't really have that much new information other than what's shared elsewhere. Like I said, I did read this in April 2018, but it does provide context surrounding that decision. So if that's something that's of interest to you, I think that it would be a worthwhile read. Back to Dan Quayle. All right, number 4. Theodore Roosevelt. Name a book that has more energy than you do. Okay, we're going to go with From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death by Caitlin Doughty. She is a mortician and the owner of a nonprofit funeral home. And she writes about how our comfort with death isn't widely shared in the comfort with level with death is very different in the Western world as compared to elsewhere. So she set out to travel the world to see how other cultures experience death, and it is like this. I don't really remember exactly how long of a time her trip was, but she went to like the most remote corners of the globe, and like several places in the United States to talk about and to observe and participate in rituals that may seem initially bizarre and macabre. She observes Mexico's Dias de los Muertos parade, and she travels to Indonesia for the Manene, an elaborate annual ceremony where the mummified dead are are exhumed after several years, outfitted with new clothes, and marched around the village in house-like structures. She went to Spain, where families rent rooms in chapels, and they spend the entire day with their dead, showing up first thing in the morning, staying till the doors close at 10 p.m. She talks about green burials in North Carolina, goes to an outdoor cremation site in Colorado. It is just a fascinating look at death. And I'm like all about books about death, by the way. I love reading about them. It's very witty, it's very funny. She has a really great sense of humor. It's really an enlightening glimpse of the nuances of customs and practices, and just an insight into like the way that we do things here in the United States is not necessarily the way that things do happen around the world. Okay, number 5, Franklin Roosevelt. Is there a book that fundamentally changed your conception of reading? Yes, probably. I'm going to go with Flannery O'Connor, The Complete Stories. This is a book that I read in college. And the more I think about it, I don't think I actually read every single story in here. So it is on my list of books for 2021 that I want to read, that I want to go back to and read this, see how many of the stories resonate with me. Of course, like several of the most famous ones do and will, but I really want to reread it in its entirety. I think that it changed the way that I read because, just her stories are just amazing. They're just, it's hard to really even put into words, but just like the way that you can be surprised as a reader. Even those of us who are avid readers who read all the time, and it's just I'm going to go with this one. So, what is John Kennedy? What is the most glamorous it book you've ever read? Heidi at My Reading Life chose Becoming by Michelle Obama when she did this tag. I'm going to go with the same because, when that book came out, it was a huge sensation and everybody was reading it, and there were lines, like the whole list at the library was forever. And anyway, so I'm going to go with Becoming by Michelle Obama. Number 7, Gerald Ford. Have you ever read a placeholder book? Something that only served to get you from one book to another. So at the end of the year, I tend to go on like these little binges of reading because I want to try to make my reading goal. So whether that's a reading goal of like 100 books a year, which only happened one time, or to get to some kind of like nice round number. I like having my final books for the year I found a tally like either ending in 0 or 5. That's like never happened, but it's always something that I kind of strive for. So usually towards the end of the year, I'm reading and listening to like the shortest books I can possibly find. Do I like a hair sticking up? God. Anyway, whatever. Like I said, I've been a little bit under the weather for the last week. I'll talk about that in another video or when I do a wrap up. But anyway, so I would say that this book, Keep Going, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad by Austin Kleon. This is so super short. It is about, let's see what it's about. It is, he's the author of Steal Like an Artist, and he talks about basically how to be creative, be more creative in your life. So this took me like all of, I don't know, maybe half an hour to read or something. So yeah, this was on one of my binges when I was trying to finish up books for the year. And let's see, okay, Bill Clinton, prompt number 8. A reading experience you loved despite how utterly sinful it was. So I'm going to go with Bad Marie by Marcy Dermansky. With a title like that, first of all, you would think that maybe somebody like Bad Marie would be somebody Bill Clinton might like. Anyway, but it is a really short novel. It's only about 212 pages. It only takes place over a month. So Marie gets herself into a lot of situations. It's a really dark literary fiction book. When we first meet her, she is 30 years old. She's just gotten out of prison, and she is working as a nanny for her childhood friend's daughter, and she's in a drunken sleep in the friend's bathtub while the 2-year-old child, who she is supposed to be watching, is playing in the tub. So she has like these machinations and these manipulations to snag her friend's husband, who is like this novelist who she adores. Um, he's like the author of her all-time favorite book, um, which is also is the book that like kept her going while she was in the slammer. Um, so they go on like this wild, um, you know, escapade. It's crazy. She's maddening. But she's sympathetic. She is just someone who you just want to shake and be like, what the fuck is going on with you? Like, what the hell are you thinking? She's taking you on this ride. I wrote, like, always with the promise that things are finally going to work themselves out. And at the same time, like, you find yourself feeling, like, really sorry for and compassionate for her, which is not logical because she is a felon. She has, like, some serious issues going on, and she probably, could benefit from talking to a therapist. She is an incredibly flawed and likable character. Um, and I wrote in my notes that we're all guilty of Marie's number one crime, that of believing that things appear better in our fantasies and our expectations than in our reality. So it's laden with symbolism. The presence of water, the presence of milk. It's just phenomenal. There's kind of like a kind of a nod to Virginia Woolf in here. It's really well written and captivating, and you can probably read this in a couple of hours, like I did. It's great. So yeah, Bad Marie by Marcy Dermansky. Number 9, George W. Bush. What's the most harmful book you've ever read? I'm gonna go with. Okay, so number 9, George W. Bush. What's the most harmful book you've ever read? I am kind of ashamed to admit it, but a while back, I wasn't really into him, but I picked up a book about by Joel Osteen. And, needless to say, I think that he is a shyster and a scam artist, and I think that he preys on people, literally. And so, yeah, so not really too proud of myself for reading that. I think that he is a harmful individual. And finally, number 10, Barack Obama. What's the last great book you read, flaws and all? I'm going to go with a book that I talked about in a recent video in my and that is like drawing a blank on it. It's the book that I talked about in Naomi Klein about on burning, on fire. I mean, God. Okay, this video's been too long. Anyway, On Fire, and it is an astonishingly, incredibly well written and researched book about climate change and who to hold responsible and what we need to do. She writes that she and other experts have written that we have 11 years to get our act together. And the book is really a collection of her essays and her speeches over the past decade that kind of lays bare the evidence in front of us about what we need to do about climate change, and her experiences in confronting climate change, whether it's in Puerto Rico after the hurricanes or being in British Columbia while her family's vacationing under a cloud of smoke from fires hundreds and even thousands of miles away. I had picked that one up because I wanted to know more about Naomi Klein's work and about the Green New Deal. And I think that it more than explains why it's needed, what the obstacles are, like the fossil fuels industry, but also I really liked how she talked about like the hopelessness and the discussion about the feeling of hopelessness when it comes to climate change. I thought that that was really powerful. So I think that it should be recommended reading. If you want more of my thoughts on that, I'll link to the video below if I remember. Anyway, so time to tag a few people who I think would like this tag. Like I said, created by Steve Donoghue. A couple people who I would have tagged for this have already done this, and or have already been tagged. So I encourage you to just do a search on presidential book tag for this. But I'm going to tag Courtney Ferreter to do this. I really would love to hear her answers for these. Also tagging my buddy Noah at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. And also Scott and Becky at the Bookish Bryans. I think that you guys would have some great things to say. Also want to tag, one more, Janae from Coffee and Copyrights. Really want to hear what you have to say, Janae, on this. And also it goes without saying that if you are not following any of these channels, please do. They are all amazing booktubers, and they have a great wealth of content and information. And like I said, this video is long enough, and I'm going to wrap it up now. So thanks again for watching. Leave me any comments about these books in the comments. I would love to hear if you've read any of them, if any of them sound interesting. And of course, if you are interested in doing the presidential book tag, by all means, and if I didn't tag you, by all means, go ahead, do it. And anyway, happy President's Day today. I hope you have a great day. And again, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in another video real soon.